Our name is Ghosts Want You Dead. The shadows lessen as the returning sun sends all that is around us into a frenzy of blooming, and the heat and fire of the sun surrounds us, consuming our sorrows and bringing new challenges. Which is to say, spring is here. Happy vernal equinox. Allergies sure suck, but at least there goes the seasonal depression.
Hello, I'm Matthew. I prefer to think of it as the beginning of the countdown to Halloween. I am not a warm weather type of person. She's Rebecca, by the way.
I was gonna say, we've upset the whole rhythm a few episodes ago, and now we forget to do our bits, but
Well,
now that's becoming a bit.
anyway, it's 224 days until Halloween.
What do you wanna be for Halloween?
I can't say.
Oh, because we
Oh,
haven't
you
gotten to
can't
it in the
say
show.
either.
Could we talk about our favorite costumes of yore? Is that allowed? I was a kangaroo as a kid,
I
and
think
that
I
was pretty
remember
cool.
the silly
Yeah,
picture
you
of you
loved that
being like a
picture.
hissing
I was
kangaroo.
a hissing kangaroo. My son is a lot like me, and he was a pangolin one year when he was, like, 5, and,
Look exactly like her too.
yeah,
Slap a wig on him and they would be indistinguishable.
it's true, but, I thought it was funny 'cause looking at him in the pangolin costume, at one point, he had turned to the camera in a very similar position and been like, "Look at me, I'm a ominous an ominous pangolin."
Yes, I was trying to there was something earlier that we said, "Oh, we'll talk about that on the podcast,"
I sure don't remember what it
and I
was.
can't remember what it was. I told you about the Duggars, that was on my list that I
Yes.
saved to tell you about. I was too busy watching Instagram Reels until you got here.
You've been on a tear. I'm usually the one blowing you up with, like, 15 all at once and things, but you got on a little real tear. I haven't even watched all of them, I don't think,
Well,
but I like it.
Rebecca lost her
I
telephone for
did.
approximately 20 hours, and then when she got it back, I sent her 1,000,000 Instagram
It
reels.
was pretty great. It was fun to go through. Yeah, it wasn't 20 hours.
It
It
was,
was
I
a
was
while.
I was I kept looking on the I have a problem, listeners, which, is that the Find My Friends function on iPhones tickles my neuroses appropriately so that I have to know where my people are at all times. So I do sort of stalk Rebecca and my husband.
It's
That's
true.
about it, really.
Well, and it's an ongoing joke because anytime I do something that I have said I wasn't gonna do or am gonna do, he
I
can
know
always
when
tease
she is
me.
sleeping, and I know
Yeah,
when she's awake,
and
and
you
I
know when
know
I'm trying to go see my ex or something.
I do, and I know when you have lost your phone and the
Yeah.
phone has died and your location hasn't updated in 18 hours. And it did get up to your location hadn't updated in 18
Well
hours, which means it had probably been lost longer than that.
well, no, like, what probably happened is I went to bed and my phone was dead, and then I kicked it off in the night, but I checked under the bed and couldn't find it, but what I'm saying, it was probably more like 8 hours that it was functionally lost from me, because I woke up and was like, "Where the fuck is my phone? Why isn't it here on the bed?" I need to get better sleep habits. I would like to put my phone away from me, like, on the other side of the room when I go to bed.
We
Like,
want to do that
make
as
myself
well.
sleep and not have the doom box so near, but I do kind of like to listen to things sometimes when I go to sleep, as I hope you do, dear listener, like to listen to us as we talk you to sleep.
I will take this opportunity to evangelize for the sleep hat. Listeners, I almost always wear my sleep hat,
I do like the sleep ad.
which is a brand of Bluetooth headphones that is basically just flat headphones in a headband that you can wear to bed, and I am a side sleeper, so I can wear my sleep hat and listen to podcasts as I drift off to sleep. If you don't have a sleep hat, you should. I'm going to Amazon now just to see what happens if I search for sleep hat. Ah! It is like the long striped pajama hats for
Ye
old men and then bonnets.
Yeah,
Uh, I do need this black and
you
white old man
do.
sleep hat. They are called generally sleep headphones,
It's just a soft headband.
but, yeah, I've been using them for years, and they are great. So get yourself a sleep hat so
I
we can go
do.
to bed with you. We sure are going on about anything but what we're here for.
It's true.
Well, shall we talk about Dark Shadows?
Yes, let's.
Administrative note. You know how I like to go on about the episode numbers and my Google Calendar of when we're recording what. This is one of those weeks where an episode number was skipped. It was episode 131. And rather than have to update my calendar through October, we're just going to take a short week to make up for all this too much talking we've done at the beginning. And we'll only tell you about 4 episodes this week, beginning with episode 132, because there is no episode 131. So, episode 132.
Victoria Winters reminds us that David is dreaming of Mother Mother. Liz is comforting David and trying to tell him to go back to bed and that it was just a bad dream. She offers to read or sit with him, but he's like, "Nah, I'm not a baby and I'll be okay." And she leaves and he lies back down. He hears a noise and gets up and goes to the window and instead of gazing out of it, calls out, "Is anyone there? Is anyone out there?" Opening credits.
The next morning, Liz, Roger, David, and Vicky are having breakfast, with David complaining about the nasty eggs Mrs. Johnson made. He's generally being a brat and doesn't want to do his homework and doesn't want to eat his nasty eggs, and he grudgingly goes up to study. Initially, Roger has said, "No, you need to eat your damn breakfast," but Liz is like, "Well, you can go do your schoolwork if you don't
Yeah.
want to." After Vicky and David exit, Liz offers Roger some more coffee, but he asks that she stop undermining his authority with David.
Yeah.
But she does agree. She's like, "Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
she's like,
totally
"No."
did that. Sorry."
Yeah, she cops to it, and, they talk about how weird it was that David dreamed of Laura when she was there in the house, and Liz says it might mean that he doesn't want to see her, that it was a bad dream, and Roger disagrees. Roger is eager for everything to work out with David and Laura. Um,
Yeah, and they're theorizing about why he might have had that dream, and Roger thinks that he was just eavesdropping on account of being a little shit and either overheard them talking to Laura or about Laura. But as you said, Liz thinks maybe it's because he doesn't want to see her, but
well,
Roger
and
thinks that's ridiculous and
yeah.
says he's always asking to see his mother, and Liz says, "Well, that's strange because he hasn't really seen her since he was 5, so you wouldn't think he would remember that much." And I'm confused about the timeline here because in the opening episodes of this show, which would have occurred in the show's timeline a few months ago,
Yeah.
David and Roger had just moved into Collinwood like a few weeks before Vicky arrived.
Yeah.
And the way it was discussed when Laura was mentioned in passing, it sounded like, well, Laura went crazy and descended into alcoholism and went to the sanatorium. and then they moved in with Liz.
Almost
Yeah,
immediately,
so it
yeah.
it seems like that they were telling us initially that it had just happened, and knowing how much Roger hates David, it is unlikely that he's been raising him as a single father for 4 years.
Yeah,
But
it could be oversight.
that's what they're telling us now has happened, because just now Liz has said that he hasn't seen his mom in 4 years. So what happened in those intervening 4
Yeah,
years then?
that is a little bit of a, uh, continuity issue.
Anyway, Roger observes that Liz just doesn't want David to see Laura because she wants to be David's mother instead, and he's a dick about it, but
Yeah.
is also maybe not wrong about it.
Yeah, but she still denies it and is like, "No, that's not it at all," and then kind of goes on to be like, "But I'll fight anybody who tries to take him from me," which sort of proves that he is maybe a little bit right.
Yeah,
Um,
she tries to brush it off by saying, "No, I'm not trying to replace her. I just think she's fresh from the crazy hospital and not fit to be a parent."
yeah,
And she accuses Roger of just trying to unload his son.
which she's also right there.
So they're both mad at each other because they've both been caught in their bullshit. And
Yeah.
then that argument ends with Liz insisting that David is going to stay there with her regardless of what either of his parents think. Upstairs, David gets a medium C on his math, and Vicky is disappointed and makes him go over it again. Instead, he asks Vicky why she doesn't hate him. He tells her that she ought to after all the shitty things he's done to her. Vicky relates that, she was a shitty little kid too once on account of being an orphan, which I'm sure many people resent the implication
Yeah.
there. Uh, but she is recognizing that he only wants to have these little heart-to-heart chats when he's trying to get out of doing schoolwork and tries to get him back on task, but then he changes the subject to mothers, and he asks Vicky if she still deep down wishes for her mother to come and find her, and she says, "Well, of course she does,"
Yeah.
and David says he used to feel that way too about his mother, but now he isn't so sure. Downstairs, Roger and Liz are still arguing and pretty much just saying the same things again. Roger says David would probably be very excited to see Laura, but Liz still doesn't want it to happen. And Roger points out that you can not want it all you want, but you don't really have any right to stop it. And Liz agrees, but is like, "But I still don't want him to."
Yeah. Upstairs, David tells Vicky that he dreamed of his mother last night and that it was super scary, and he is tired, and she notes that he's kind of pale, and he says he didn't sleep much last night, and she goes ahead and does let him skip out on math finally and lay down for a nap, and she
She
tucks him
clearly
in.
doesn't believe him and is just indulging him like, "Well, I'm not getting anywhere, and he keeps changing the
Yeah,
subject, so might as well just fucking give up and take the afternoon off."
sure. I mean, she does seem somewhat compassionate. She does tuck him in. But then as soon as she leaves the room, David immediately gets up and creeps to his window to climb out of it and say, "Mother, mother,
Into the howling wind.
mother."
In the drawing room, Liz is working on something at the desk as Roger enters with more firewood, and I thought how novel to see Roger doing household tasks
I was actually going to say I was unusually attracted to him in that scene
because
with
he
his
was
he
carrying
was
wood and had gloves on.
I know, with his little cable knit, I was like, "Oh, okay, I could see it now." Like, I had a moment where I was like, "Yeah." Anyway,
Well,
he
he
takes
takes the
the yeah.
opportunity to restart the
Yeah,
argument
he
from
picks a
earlier,
fight with Liz.
and Uh, the gall of him, he accuses Liz of being a snob
Yeah.
and of thinking that Laura was beneath them and a gold digger, so he brings up that her husband also sucked, which we will learn more about in a
Yeah.
few months.
Liz avoids this whole conversation and says, "Well, we're not here to talk about the past and we have to focus on the present." So they talk about what's to be done about Laura.
Liz does admit that Laura seems to have changed for the better from what she's observed so far. She insists that before Laura can see David, they have to get to know present day Laura more.
Which is understandable, like, you can't just let this crazy lady swoop in, or this previously crazy lady swoop in and, swoop out.
You hush.
Those that know, but
Vicky comes in to tell Liz that she's concerned about David because of his little night terror. Roger thinks he's just being a baby
Yeah, he go ahead.
and asks Vicky to bring him downstairs so that they can announce Laura's return.
So, yeah, Roger thought that everyone was being too soft on him, and Roger takes that opportunity to say, "Well, let's settle this," and tells Vicky to bring him down so that they can tell him the news. And then Vicky's like, "What news?" And he says, "Well, Laura is in town." And Vicky's like, "Who's Laura?" And Roger says, "My wife."
Oh, yeah.
And, like, he says it all not actually Borat-y, but the way he goes, "My wife." It was like, "My wife," and, I giggled a lot of that. Anyway, is back in town. My wife is back in town, and Vicky is like, "Oh, well, that's weird because David was just talking about that that's what he dreamed about." And once again, he sends Vicky to go wake up David.
And she does, but he's still calling out the window to "Mother,
"Mother,
mother,"
mother."
to a suspenseful score, and Vicky enters and catches him hollering out the window and admonishes him for not napping. He's like, "I guess I wasn't as tired as I thought I was.
Now he wants to go out and play, and
I
she's
was
like
pretty tired of fucking math," but
Yeah.
and
I know how that goes.
Vicky also wonders who he was talking to, but he denies it and says, "Oh, it wasn't me, must have been somebody else, even
Yeah.
though I'm the only person on this floor of the house at present." He doesn't want to go down and talk to Roger and Liz and seems to already know what they're going to say.
Yeah, he says he might as well go get it over with, and Vicky's like, "Get over what?" And he's like, "Never mind, it's whatever."
Downstairs, Liz and Roger are still arguing.
Liz thinks that Roger is tactless and won't be able to tell him well, and she should do it, and he doesn't really care who tells him as long as someone tells him that it should be done, and
Their arguing is interrupted by David, and Liz has him sit down as though she has bad news. David announces that he knows what they're going to say and they should just get it over with. Roger's like, "Well, if you know so damn much, why don't you tell us?"
and he's like, "My mother is here." They ask how he knows and if Vicky told, and he says, "No," and then recounts that she was in his dream last night, and she was wearing the blue coat and sat by the fire calling his name, "David, David," and
He
David
seems to have witnessed the drawing room meeting with Laura the night
Yes.
previous and recounts all the details of her visit, but adds that she was calling his name into the fire, and Liz is dumbfounded, and he asks to go, so she's like, "Yeah, sure, that's fucking weird, go so I can process that."
Yeah, Liz thinks he's a little psychic baby, and Roger thinks he's a spying sneak, which
Both things
both
are
things are
true.
true, so I could see both sides.
But they puzzle over how he took the news and how he already knew, and
It was
it's
just yeah, Roger thinks the likely scenario was that he was sneaking around, and Liz thinks that David was having his clairs and is adamant he was asleep the whole night, and then we cut to David hollering out the window for "Mother, mother" over and over again to the sting of Oh, spooky things. End credits.
Episode 133, Victoria Winters reminds us that Laura is still in town and everybody is freaked out by it, except for Burke, who desperately wants to see her.
Burke is on the phone with, I'm guessing, Blair? I
Yeah,
don't
he said
Oh, I
Blair.
didn't remember if he said Blair. And he is excited because he says Laura can prove his innocence and he's ready for this confrontation, wants to see her, and he's been waiting for this for 10 years. And
Voiceover Vicky chimes back in to tell us that also something is going on with horrible old Sam.
Sam is drunk, confused, and afraid.
Over at the Evanses, Sam is smoking a pipe and the score gets spooky. He
He's
uncovers the painting of the Lady in Flames and stares at it, looking scared before the opening credits.
He is standing there looking at the painting and is disturbed, and Maggie comes in and offers breakfast, and he turns it down. She's worried he's not been eating lately, and he doesn't want her to harangue him about his drinking. She says that she's genuinely just worried that he's not eating enough or getting enough nutrients and vitamins, and he jokes, "Vitamins? What's that? A new bourbon? Her, 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 her." And Maggie is like, "Yeah, sure, in the form of eggs. Go fucking eat some, you fucking toddler." And he says he couldn't. And she says something is bothering him. And in a moment of uncharacteristic self awareness, Sam says something along the lines of, "Oh, something's always bothering him." And I thought that was funny. We giggled at
It was
that.
funny. She says bugging him,
Oh,
and he
sure.
says there's always something bugging me. But Maggie also is like, well, yeah, but you're worse than usual at
Yeah.
the moment.
She presses, and
Really,
Sam argues.
she really shouldn't bother, but she continues to try and make him eat the breakfast that she's already prepared for him, but he shoos her off to work.
God, their dynamic is just sad. It makes me sad.
It is sad, but she invites him to stop by the inn for lunch, and on her way out, he's lingering by the Fire Lady painting, so she comes over and tries to look at it, but
And he snaps
she's
at her.
covered it with a drop cloth, and he freaks out and stops her and yells at her some more, and then she apologizes, which is sad.
Yeah.
She puts together that this must have something to do with that mystery lady, and Sam reveals that mystery lady is in fact Laura Collins.
And Maggie's like,
She's
"Oh."
confused and is like, "Well, why should you
Yeah.
care?" But he changes the subject.
And she starts to try to detective at him some more, but instead turns and stares at the covered canvas.
Over at the inn, Burke bangs on Laura's door again. This time he announces himself. No answer, though, so he retreats.
He comes down into the dining room and Maggie offers him some coffee.
And she makes her usual I make bad coffee jokes. Burke tells Maggie that he's looking for a lady that's staying there. She playfully asks Burke if this lady happens to be a hot blonde. Then she reveals that she knows he's talking about Laura and that they had talked about him, and she delivers all of the gossip about Laura that she has, including, "Oh, yeah, I also told her you were a dick," and she was like, "No, I don't remember him being a dick."
I thought that was funny,
It
yeah.
was funny. Maggie does elaborate that it's weird that Laura never seems to eat or drink anything.
She
Is she a ghost?
ordered coffee and barely drank it, orders food and doesn't eat it at all. Then Burke asks for some more coffee, but gets up to get it himself. And Maggie says, "Help yourself," because she's sat down and in gossip mode.
Burke is fondly recalling his relationship with Laura, making it sound like it was hot and heavy.
Maggie thinks that he's still sweet on her, but reminds him that she's married to Roger. And Burke says that he has waited 10 years to talk to her. And clearly, it doesn't necessarily have romance on the mind so
Yeah,
much as
he's about to tell Maggie about how Laura witnessed the manslaughtering, but
But
Sam
Sam comes in.
enters and interrupts. Instead, Burke tells Sam about how Laura is in town and can exonerate him, and that Sam should be nervous.
Yeah, he should start sweating, and Sam leaves.
Maggie witnesses all this and is looking on with suspicion. Maggie asks Sam
Oh,
what.
Sam doesn't leave, Burke leaves. I'm sorry, I
Oh,
messed that up.
I didn't catch that you said that, but at any rate, yeah, Burke exits and Maggie asks Sam what the fuck all that was about, but he dismisses her questions. She is not dissuaded, though. She asks why he pretended not to know that Laura was in town, because when Burke brings it up earlier, he says it in such a way that's like, "Did you know who's in town?"
Yeah.
Sam's like, "No, who?"
Ooh.
Uh, when Maggie asks about this, he gaslights her and is like, "I didn't say that, must have been your imagination."
Yeah, he's a dick.
Then
I
he
hate
yells
Sam.
at her and she apologizes again.
Yeah, well,
But
that's how it is.
Laura enters and breaks up the sad party, and the music gets real spooky as she drawls slowly, "Hello, Sam." And then she makes small talk, and they're friendly enough, but she has an air of menace about her, and he's clearly nervous. He excuses himself pleasantly enough and leaves, and Maggie looks worried as Laura sits at a table. Maggie brings coffee over, and Laura expresses surprise that Maggie is Sam's daughter and says she kind of remembers her from when she was a little kid. Maggie admits that she's been trying to learn Laura's identity for days, and Laura seems
He's like,
surprised.
"Oh?"
Maggie says something to the tune of, "Surely you must have noticed how fucking nosy I've been in all my million questions." And Laura's like, "Yep, sure have. Kinda thought that was just your personality."
Which it is. But she reveals that everybody's been looking for her and asking about her, and Sam and Burke, and she says, "Burke was just here looking for you," and this makes Laura uncomfortable.
She is not into that idea, and she asks Maggie to lie for her and say that she hasn't seen her if Burke asks.
Maggie's a little confused, but is like, "Okay,
She like, "We friends now when
yeah."
you'll barely talk to me?"
But, that's all moot when,
Right on
right on
cue.
cue, Burke walks in, and sees her and just creeps up directly behind her. They lock eyes.
They exchange a heavy stare, and the score is dramatic, but then it immediately turns romantic. And he asks if they can talk. Laura tries to get out of it and says, "Oh, I was just leaving," but he insists, and so she relents. Laura asks how he is, and he says that he's bitter, and she's not surprised by this. Before getting to the point of what he wants, he makes sure to flirt a little bit.
He says that she's more beautiful now than he imagined, and, he says she's changed, and she says she's been through a lot.
He says that he tried to see her at the sanatorium, but they wouldn't let him, which is another instance of this show making me recall The House of Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Burke lights a cigarette and
Mystery Mother is transfixed by the flame like a cat with a laser pointer. She stops what she's doing and just kinda gets closer to the camera and the match and is like, "Fire pretty."
but she comes to her senses
As
when
he
he
snuffs it
blows out
out,
the
yeah.
match. He asks her if she's seen Roger and says sarcastically that he must be thrilled to see you. But Laura explains to Burke that she isn't really interested in what Roger thinks. She's just come back for David, and Burke is pleased. He explains to Laura that he and David are best friends. Burke says David is the kind of son that he'd like to have had, the
That
kind
they
that they could have had.
and Laura straight up says, "Yes, Burke." exactly the kind, which I feel like is a pretty forward, like, yeah, "You the baby daddy, Burke," which I feel like that's fairly obvious, but then you said something.
It may well, but we also have to consider that could just be her trying to manipulate him, like, "I am your baby mama, and surely you're not going to manipulate me into testifying in court about lying under oath 10 years
Sure,
ago."
but Burke also doesn't seem to pick up on it either, like, there isn't, like, a nod of recognition or anything, she just says it to tease the audience, like, "Yes, the exact kind, wink, wink, nudge, nudge."
But yeah, Burke is oblivious and just asks how it's going with Roger. Laura tells him that she's asked for a divorce and custody of David. Burke finally gets down to business and says that he wants her to tell the truth about the
Yeah,
manslaughtering.
he wants her to clear his name, and she's like, "Well, I have to deal with my own stuff first before I deal with any of that," and seems a little cagey about it. They say they will meet again soon. He sort of softens as he says that, but I think he was being fairly firm before that. And then we cut back to Sam painting the fire lady and screaming, "No, no," like his hand is possessed, like I used to do for the kids when they were little, where it's like, "Oh no, my hand, it's got a mind of its own." And then it would wiggle around and be crazy, and I would fight with it. That's what that reminded me of because Sam's like, "No, no," and he's got the paintbrush. It
I
was
found it
funny.
confusing at first because with one arm he grabs the arm that's painting, and I first interpreted that as, "Oh, my arm hurts, I've been painting too long," but no, then he seems to be
Wrestling
unable to
himself.
stop painting, and finally he does, and he yells and throws the brush as we zoom in on the painting and the theremin goes nuts. End credits.
It was pretty wild.
Episode 134. Victoria Winters tells us a little too dramatically that Laura is coming to visit at Collinwood, but she draws it out for about 45 seconds. David is still busy mothering out the window a lot when Liz comes in and asks what the fuck he is doing. And he's panicking about his mother. He asks if she asked about him, and Liz says, well, of course, that was the first thing she did. And he asks a bunch of questions and then insists that he can see Mother out the window down hiding in the trees, and he points, but Liz does not see her. Opening credits.
The pair come downstairs, and he says he can't wait till she gets here and says Liz says she will be there anytime. David wants to help with the fire, but Roger says no. He is busy with his I don't know if he's still wearing the cable knit sweater. I don't think he is. David says that he's excited to see her and he thinks that she's come live with them. Roger starts to be like, "So, kid," but Liz shuts it down and sends him to go wash up. Meanwhile, he's asking what room she will stay in. He's just planning them to be a happy family, mother and father all under one roof. And he goes up to clean and change most happily to impress Mother. Roger tells Liz he's not going to play house with Laura just to appease David, but he does say that maybe she should stay there temporarily. Liz agrees, and
But this is just politics. She is
yeah,
concerned about how this is going to appear to the
right,
town, and she basically says, "You need to either go public with the divorce or bring her to stay here because it looks weird her staying at the inn."
right.
And they talk a bit about Burke and how surely he's going to be interested in Laura being in town on account of Roger having stolen her from Burke years ago and also all of the manslaughtering, but they don't go into details. But they do decide that yes, they should let Laura stay at the house. Upstairs, David has changed his shirt and is putting a tie on to be fancy for Mother, and he's gazing out the window as Vicky enters and they make small talk. David announces that his mother is coming and he's excited, so Vicky is excited for him. David is all smiles, and this is one of the first times that I've noticed him stumbling over his lines. I suppose that poor kid isn't used to trying to portray happiness. He goes back to his gloomy self, though, worrying what if he says something that makes Mother hate him. And Vicky assures him that, well, no, she'll never hate you. You don't need to worry about that. But then the subject turns back to his dreams about Laura being scary, and that the most recent one was everything was on fire and Laura was standing in the flames calling to him. And in the dream, he wanted to go to her into the flames, and he gets all head up about it and starts to freak out. So Vicky shakes him to his senses and then tries to comfort him.
She says that he's just nervous to meet Mother, and that that's what she felt when she came to Collinwood to, meet her mother, who also abandoned her, but that was subtextual.
That honestly didn't occur to me at the moment,
Oh,
but
yeah.
yeah.
She's like, "I felt that same way." Like, well, that would make sense. You also have a spooky magic mom.
David does respond a bit to Vicky trying to comfort him, but he still says he has a lingering feeling that something he doesn't understand is going to happen. Outside, Laura knocks on the door, and Roger sort of takes a deep breath and gathers himself up and heads pinched faced to let her in, but they are polite to one another.
She's asked how David is and where David is, and he says that he's upstairs and will be down shortly. She asks how he reacted when he heard she was coming, and Roger tells her that David had dreamed of her, and Roger says he wants to talk to her about David. He tells her that Liz and David are close and that that might be an obstacle. They talk about Burke and the Manslaughter Club and Liz, and they agree it's best for both of them not to dredge it up or let Burke do so.
But Roger is clearly kind of blackmailing her and implying that, well,
Should
if
this go
you
to court?
testify
Yeah.
for Burke, you won't get David. And also, if you don't cooperate with me on this, I won't cooperate with you on trying to convince Liz that you should get custody
Right.
of your son. This is all very civil, but clearly they've both got each other's number on.
Yeah, I think they had a good read there.
Vicky interrupts, though, and Roger introduces her to Laura, and they make pleasant chit chat. Then Roger sends Vicky upstairs to fetch David, and Laura remarks that, gee, Vicky's a nice girl, and she and Roger head on into the drawing room to face Liz. Upstairs, Vicky enters David's room to fetch him, but she can't find him because now he's hiding and has gone back to not wanting to meet Mother after all. He doesn't want to talk about the why. He just insists that he doesn't want to see her.
Yeah, she pushes and they go back and forth, and David just keeps saying he doesn't know why he feels so strange. They dance around it until Vicky says one way or the other, he's just going to meet his mother tonight.
And it's ominous.
Yeah, like one way or the other, kid, you're gonna meet your mother, like
and
Maker, but
and we cut directly to the flames in the fireplace.
yeah.
Liz is asking Laura if she understands her point of view, and Liz also shadily compliments the positive change in her personality. And
Laura snarks that she's learned to tolerate much, and she's just like, fucking bitch. You can tell it's a little icy with them.
Roger hilariously lies that it will be difficult to see David go.
Yeah.
Vicky and David are coming down the stairs, and David is cute for the first time in the show, and he asks Vicky to stand by his side and hold his hand, and he's scared and not actively being enemies with Vicky, and it's kind of cute.
Yeah.
But
He comes in and meets Mother, and she says, "Hello, David," and suddenly there are flames superimposed over her face, and the spooky mystery Mother fire music is playing, and it's spooky, and he panics and runs out of the room away from Mother and her fire.
Liz sends Vicky after him, and Laura looks disappointed and again sits almost into the fire and gazes into it. Upstairs, Vicky enters David's room to ask, "The fuck was that?" And David answers very pointedly, "That's
That's
not
not
my
my
mother."
mother.
End credits. Episode 135.
Victoria Winters tells us weird old Laura is at Collinwood, and it's spooky. She does another continued voiceover and says that David isn't reacting well to Mother.
In the drawing room, we're seeing Laura gaze into the fire, and we see the last scene from the previous episode again. But after David proclaims Laura to not be his mother, Vicky tells him that that's just silly. He insists that no, that is not his mother, but Vicky reasons then, well, if that's true, then why do your father and your aunt, who were grown adults when last she was here, recognize her, and why did they let her in the house to see you? If
And he's like, "I don't give a fuck. That's not my mother." Like, he is adamant that that is not the same woman. And
Vicky tries to get him to listen to reason, she tells him, well, she seems very nice and she's very pretty, and more importantly, she loves you. And at this, he seems sort of intrigued, like, really? She loves me? Nobody's ever loved me before because
oh,
I'm horrible.
poor baby.
he,
David of the damn corn. He
he's,
just wants to be loved for
well,
his
he should
spookiness.
fix his personality.
I don't know, I kinda like that kid. I mean, he's, awful, but I kinda like him. I'm
Well,
a fan of David.
despite being intrigued by the notion of someone finally loving him, he still refuses to go downstairs again. He says he doesn't want to go anywhere near that lady because if he does, something terrible might happen. Opening credits.
That whole bit just made me think of the joke that, like, that's me and dating apps. Like, the prospect of someone finally loving me, but then if I do that, something terrible will happen. Vicky asks why he thinks that, and he says that he doesn't know. He just gets a funny, scary feeling.
She says that these fears are just in his imagination, and she tries some more to get him to listen to reason.
He
He will not be moved.
he is dramatic and upset at first and says, I don't want to go down. And but then changes track and pleads with Vicky, saying, "Please, I'm really scared too." And she says, "Okay, I'll make some excuse to your mother." Like, she's kind of annoyed with him, like,
She gives him a
"Yeah,
big disappointed look as she goes, but she's like, "Fucking
I'm
fine,
not
be a
gonna."
baby, I'll take care of
Yeah,
it. I am not really your nanny, I'm supposed to be your teacher, but this once, okay." I
outside of
don't
my pay
know.
grade.
Vicky, goes back to the drawing room and calls Liz aside to speak privately, and explains that David has just had too much excitement for today and is too worked up, and she thinks maybe they should postpone this meeting.
Roger is like, "Oh, no, he wants to see you. He's just," and he's gonna go up and have a talk with him, and Roger is doing everything he can to be like, "No, now that I know you're not gonna turn me in for the you've gotta take
I've
this
already
kid.
packed his
Yeah,
bags. You
get this
can't
kid out of here. You
go
can't
back.
go yet."
And he's trying to sugarcoat things, but Laura says, no, it's okay. She thinks he's afraid and that it is somehow her fault, maybe because she was being too eager, but Roger offers to go upstairs and make him come down, but Laura refuses. Liz tries to be comforting, but Laura returns to gaze into the fire again. Upstairs, talking out the window, David tells his mother that he can feel her watching him and he wants her to stop. Downstairs, Liz tells Laura that, this might be a lengthy process, and Roger joins in to say what we mean by that is that we think you should stay here at the house so that you can have a chance to get to know David again. And
Laura is unsure about this and
because
worried
who would
about
want to live with these people?
yeah, and she's concerned about her privacy. Roger suggests that Matthew's murder shack, would be appropriate for Laura to stay in, and
What with him having been dead for 5 minutes.
yeah.
So
And, Liz does not like this idea. Laura does like this idea. Liz thinks the old murdered cottage is unfit for Mother. Carolyn shows up to see her Aunt Laura, and she's excited.
they seem to remember each other fondly,
Yeah, they share some
despite how weird all the other reunions have been.
yeah, they have a sweet reminiscence and are like, "Oh, yay, I used to think your earrings were beautiful, and
But
we
this
were
camaraderie
friends."
will not last for long. Laura's totally down to stay in the cottage, and Carolyn offers to show it to her while Liz runs off to grab the keys. Roger reassures Laura that everything's going to be okay, and she's kinda creepy about it, and she gets that slow, dreamy voice and is like, "It just has to be."
Ooh, yeah.
Upstairs, David tells his mother out the window several times to go away.
Go away, mother."
He closes the window and flops dramatically onto his bed, looking upset.
Yeah, he genuinely is crying and feeling a little upset.
Downstairs, Liz gives Laura the keys, and Laura is appropriately thankful. Roger offers to drive her back to town, but she tells him she already has a taxi coming, and everybody seems to be getting along fine. After Laura leaves with Carolyn to look at the cottage, Liz goes upstairs to check on David. When they're left alone, Vicky approaches Roger to relay the weird shit that David has been saying about Laura.
And Roger is like, "We are not gonna talk about this with Liz because he has been" and I made this comment to myself earlier and I forgot it in my notes, but he has been treating this whole thing as though he's trying to get a used car sold and is like, "Oh, don't worry about David and his up and down emotions. That's just a clinking noise. That's normal. Here, please take this kid." But Vicky's suggesting that this is not a good idea for him to see Mother. He's like, let's not tell Liz about all of that because Liz is just going to get upset about it and get in my way of getting this kid out the door. So don't mention anything about the dreams of the fire and the mother. Why don't you, Vicky?
Upstairs, Liz enters David's room and he asks her through tears to go away. She asks what's wrong, and first, he makes sure that Mother is gone and that she isn't coming back. Liz explains to him that, well, she's going to be staying here, and he gets scared, but then she goes on to say, in Matthew's cottage, and so then he's a little less scared. David is just confused because he does want his mommy, but also he's scared of her. And Liz is being comforting, but you can tell she's pleased as punch.
Yeah, she's like, "That's okay, my little darling."
Carolyn and Laura enter Matthew's cottage, and Laura is immediately pleased with it. She's like, no, it's fine, just like this. Carolyn does say that Mrs. Johnson cleaned it up after Matthew died, yesterday.
Yeah, like last week.
But Laura isn't worried about the dust. Now is when the aunt and niece relations start to be tested as Carolyn brings up Burke, checking to see if she has any new competition,
Yeah,
remembering
she's like,
that
"Hey, auntie, do you still wanna bone your former and my hopefully future fella?" Like, and, Laura seems to be, like, not really interested with Burke, and
but now Carolyn has her eye on her. She's like,
yeah,
"I see you, hussy."
yeah. Laura
Laura changes the subject and asks Carolyn if the house is visible from the cottage, and Carolyn says, "Yeah, but you can see it better when the leaves are off the trees." So Laura asks Carolyn to point out which window is David's room, which is creepy.
yeah.
Back in David's room, Liz asks him why he was frightened, but he doesn't want to talk about it anymore. They have a weird talk about how hot Laura is,
Yeah, that was weird. I was just gonna say that how he was saying he wasn't a crybaby and that he hates crybabies, that he was being a crybaby.
but they both agree how very, very pretty his mom is.
Yeah, it was weird.
He's like, even prettier than I remembered.
Prettier than other moms, huh? I have the prettiest mom.
To be fair, Laura is prettier than most moms.
She is very pretty. She has a haunting beauty.
Anyway, they wrap this up and Liz puts him to bed and leaves. Back over in the cottage, Laura is asking Carolyn if she thinks that Liz and Roger would mind if instead of going back to the inn, she just goes ahead and stays the night.
And Carolyn's like, "Really?"
You
Like,
want to stay in this nasty cottage without any of your stuff? Don't you want to brush your teeth, you nasty bitch?
yeah.
uh, she says, you don't want the place cleared up or your things brought over from the inn. And no, Laura's fine with all that. She says she'll manage, but Carolyn clearly thinks she's being a weirdo, but she's like, sure, whatever makes you happy, unless that happens to be Burke, in which case we will
Back
box.
off, bitch.
Carolyn offers to pick up her things from the inn because she thinks it's nasty that she doesn't bring any of her toiletries.
Yeah.
She accepts, but is weird about it. And she's like, oh, yeah, just ask for my stuff. It's all packed up.
And she's like,
As if,
"Really?"
in addition to not eating or drinking, she also hasn't washed or changed since coming to
Yeah.
town. Uh, Carolyn leaves and is clearly thinking, gee, Aunt Laura is weirder than I remember.
Yeah.
After Carolyn exits, Laura gazes out the window and begins to telepathically beckon to David, who tosses and turns as the theremin gets all worked up. And Laura calls out, David, David, come to me. I need you. I want you.
David, come to mother, mother.
End
End
credits.
credits.
And somehow, even though we did one less episode
We still
than we
talked.
normally did, we actually have run longer than we do
Well,
some
we're just
weeks,
chatty
and I'm
Cathys.
gonna have to cut so much out.
I'm
We
sorry.
really do need to teach you to edit the podcast so you can take a turn sometimes. I wanted to tell our dear patrons that we have recorded the first bonus episode,
We did it.
but I'm still in the process of editing it. And we, for giggles, recorded video for the first bonus episode, which we aren't going to use because I sprung it on Rebecca
I was in my
and
pajamas.
was
I
like,
had no makeup on. I
by the
was
way,
looking
we're recording
wild. I
video.
was like, I came in hot after getting my kid to bed. My hair was everywhere, and I'm
I thought she looked fine, but I wouldn't want someone to post video to the internet of me without my permission.
no,
So
I would rather have a little. I don't even have to have makeup so much as just not be like I wasn't wearing a bra, and you have to pay for that.
well, also, it was dark at your house,
Yeah,
and
that's
so
true
our
too.
video isn't consistent. and it could have been because you have my other light over
I
there,
do.
and so we
Well,
could have had the same lighting.
we can definitely try it again. I'm not opposed to showing my
Again with the
face.
tangents,
Yeah, we just like to talk.
it's not your fault. What I was getting at is that the first bonus episode will be out sometime next week. I don't want to release it on the same day as the weekly episode, so it will probably turn up between Wednesday and Friday. Also, for our second level patrons at the $10 and up levels, the first book for Tome Troop, as I'm pretentiously referring to book club, will be coming this week. So Rebecca and I just have to read it, and then we'll be recording that as well.
That'll be fun.
Also, many of our bonus welcome gifts have started to arrive. So anyone that joins the Patreon between whenever I said this the first time and May 1st will get some extra little surprises in the mail.
A little goodie
So be sure to provide your mailing address.
so we can send you goodies.
Also, a warm welcome to our newest Wraith. Amy has joined the Patreon. Thank you, Amy.
Thanks, Amy.
Welcome.
Welcome. We appreciate you.
This program is brought to you by Amy and Austin and Jacob.
Thanks, guys.
If you would like to join them, go to patreon.com/ghostswantyouded. It is still a work in progress. Also, you can follow us on Instagram at Ghosts Want You Dead and also on YouTube. And you can leave us reviews and ratings on the podcast app of your choice. Or you can not do any of that and just listen to us.
And that's fine too. But we're fun on the internet, or we try to be.
And we will be getting more fun on the internet.
Oh, just you wait.
I am taking steps.
Dear listeners, please,
We said all the things we need to say, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Matthew, mother, Matthew,
Yes.
mother.
I should do the mothers because you're a mother
am
and
a
I'm a
mother.
Matthew.
All right. Matthew.
No. Mother. I was about to say I'm hanging up now.
We've been on the
hanging up
phone a little
now.
more this week than we usually do lately. It's been nice. I like talking to you.
I also like talking to you, but I'm done doing it for the moment. That's
Okay.
not true. We'll keep talking, but I'm done recording.
You're
us
done talking to me
typing.
performatively.
I'm hanging up now.
I'm hanging up now.